as you can see, we're now at the spraying stage, and I've had a bit of playing around with primers, with the Alclads 2 primer, because this is what we're going to use. We're going to use Alclad 2's primer. It's like a black primer and it's like a micro filler. So the theory is that any kind of very fine scratches, it's going to fill them in, as well as being a primer ready for your Alclad 2 paints, as well as being black, which black is a great surface to start with to put in on your natural metal finish paints. Right, so as you can see, I've already had a go at doing the top, because although the instructions on the bottle say 15 psi, doesn't say anything about thinning, I did find that it was a little bit on the thick side, so I've had to play around, and good old cellulose thinners thins this stuff down very nicely. I mean, we're probably talking it just needed maybe about 20% thinners to about 80% primer just to help it out, and that just helps it out nicely, spray a lot better. So we simply spray this on with a nice light coat to start with, hopefully, as you can see, and we can just simply do this all over like so. As you can see, this has all now been sprayed up real nice, quick, easy, no real messing about, and it looks like a very nice primer to go down. It looks like it's going to help Alclads 2 go on this really nicely. The finish, it's not like a glossy finish, but it's a nice smooth finish, and as I say, it's nice and black, which is great for doing Alclads 2 paints. So this is also a good opportunity to have a look around at your model and just make sure that you've got no scratches, no seam lines, no nasties, because what's going to happen is any imperfections on this model is going to show up when you start spraying on all that Alclad 2 paints, because it's just the way Alclad's 2 paints, well, any kind of natural metal finish works. It's the whole kind of like the shininess of it, where when you kind of rotate the model, it kind of changes its tones and all this kind of contrast business, where it can look darker in some lights, it can look really shiny in some lights, and the whole kind of, if you have any imperfections, gets brought out because of this whole changing of the different lights and everything, and the changing of the colours and all that kind of stuff kind of brings out all those imperfections, as I say. So you know, make sure you have a good real close look and look at all the different imperfections that might be on here and take care of them now, because when we start putting those Alclad 2 paints down, it's going to make it harder to kind of go back and correct them. Right then, here comes the fun part. We're going to start doing our natural metal finish. We've got a nice base coat here. I've checked around, made sure there's no imperfections. There was one or two just around the canopy area, but I've just kind of filled that in with a good old Vallejo plastic putty technique. And now we're going to start using our paints. Now, what I'm using ALC 105, which is polished aluminium. I've used it before, and I found it's a good aluminium colour to whack down on as a first base colour for our natural metal finish. Now, with this stuff, you know, and actually I did forget to mention that even our primer, it's lacquer based, right, and this is lacquer based. So what this means is very kind of dangerous, harmful for your health and your lungs and stuff. So make sure you've got extractor fans on, doors open, face masks on. I mean, as a minimum, I would always recommend a face mask, because I mean, at the end of the day, your room can be all potent and everything, but if you've got a face mask on, you know, you're protecting your lungs at least, you know. But just remember, when you take the face mask off, your room's probably going to be all potent and everything, but you know, get those face masks on. Right, so this stuff, you got a little ball bearing in there because it kind of separates all the good stuff from the bottom. So give it a good shake and make sure you check the bottom, right? And then you want a paper towel handy on standby, because when we pour this in here, right, what's going to happen is it just seems to somehow just pour down as you pour it back, as you probably just saw, and it just spilt down here somehow. It really does, it's really thin and it just gets everywhere. You want to put the lid back on straight away because it evaporates like there's no tomorrow, right? And the stuff is very expensive. So we want to check our flow, make sure we're all good, and we're all good. We want to be at about 15 psi, a light psi, and what we want to do, we just want to very lightly start to build up our layers. So we simply spray on nicely like so. Yeah, we want to be starting spraying off the model and finish spraying as we come off the model. We don't want any spitting or anything like that. And what we've just done, we just put a first light misty coat on. Right, so I'm just gonna carry on spraying this with a first light misty coat. Right, there's the first light misty coat. Now because it's black, I mean, we're gonna have to put a couple of coats on here. So let's just do this one wing just to show you. I'm trying to hold this. Now it does dry pretty damn quick, so I mean, we can pretty much handle this pretty quickly afterwards. But again, I'm just doing this wing, and this is the second coat. And as you can see, we're starting to get this real nice natural metal finish that we're after. Right, cutting to air below that. Right, and we could probably come along and put a third coat down on this now. And look at that, already we've run out of paint out of our cup. Right, this stuff, as I say again, really does not go far. Right, it's quite expensive, but I mean the results you get from it are just so nice and worth it. Again, it just seems to find its way out of the cup, so make sure you got that paper towel on standby like so. Right, and then we can come back and we can carry on with that third coat. So check in our flow. Make sure you get the leading edges, and we'll cut to wear like so, and then we'll give it a fourth coat. And get them leading edges. So hopefully, as you can see, you know, it does give you such a nice finish. Hopefully, as you can see, yeah, and this is what I mean, you maneuver it in the light and you can just see how the colours change. It can look like a dark aluminium, and then it goes a very kind of shiny aluminium. And this is where any imperfections are gonna show up, because if you've got hairs sticking out, I mean, you're gonna have different shades of aluminium showing up, and it just, you know, it just brings everything out. So I'm just gonna now spray all over this top side. There you go. As you can see, it's looking all nice and aluminium all on top. And hopefully, as you could also see while I was speeding this up, was one, I went through, like, I mean, this was about almost half full, so I mean, I used about half of this. You do have to keep kind of filling up your colour cup. It takes a good almost 3 or 4 coats to get this to this nice natural metal finish state, which hopefully you can agree does look all nice and natural metal finishy. there you go. As you can see, we have now sprayed all around our model, and it's all got that nice natural metal finish, right? So all looking good now, but what we want to do is we want to show a bit of wear and tear. So we want to get some of these panels looking a slightly different colour to that of our polished aluminium that we've got on here. So what we can do is, got some masking tape on the back of my hand here, and I'd just like to cut out some nice little strips, right? And we can reuse these, right? Because we need a low tack, and because we need a low tack, what we do is we, on the back of our hands, just get in our bit of Tamiya masking tape, and what we're doing, we're just getting off any oils and kind of skin or whatever that kind of just makes the tackiness of our Tamiya masking tape that little bit less tacky. And all we want to do is just lightly mask this into place like so. Yeah, right on our line. We're just picking out any kind of random panel line here, right? We ain't got to you know, really kind of look at like reference photos and well, we can look at reference photos, just it is a random thing, right? But we just want to get the whole panel line, right? So we want to make sure it's all nicely masked up. And what we also want to do is we don't need to go off and, you know, put this masking tape down and just push down all the masking tape and everything. We don't need it to be all nice and down. As you can see, I mean, this is still flapping up here. We don't need it masked down, because what we've got to remember is Alcraz 2 paints, I mean, as nice and durable as it is for a natural metal finish paint, it's still a little bit, I think, a little bit delicate, and we don't want to be coming around and slapping down loads of masking tape down, you know, because we could get peeling going on. So this kind of leaving it a little bit flappy, so we're just getting exactly what we want. It just makes things a little bit safer. So next thing as well, I am picking the ALC 102, which is duralinium, and what this is, it's a nice kind of little step up from polished aluminium. And what we want to do, we just want to make sure our flow's all good, right? And then we just want to very lightly, just nicely get our biting point where the paint just starts coming out, and we just want to start spraying in this panel right here, this one single panel, like so. Lightly does it, like so. And you might be thinking, hold on, he's not really done anything there. Oh, let's just make sure I've got it. Alright. You might be thinking, what's he done there? It looks pretty much the same, but if we just remove this masking tape, alright, it is just that slight different sort of tone different, right? And we've got to show you, got to try and get it in the light, and you can just see how that panel there is that just a different colour, and it really does depend on how you look at it, what angle of light you get it in, and you can just see that that has just brought that panel out looking still like it's all kind of aluminium, but it does have that difference to it, right? So it's a nice colour, that one is really nice. And what we can do, we can go around and we can do a couple more of them panels. Right then, we're all now finished with our natural metal finish. As you can see, what I've done was went round, masked up a load of different panel lines, and if I just rotate this in the light, you will see how the different, even though we've put on a lighter version of aluminium, when you just rotate that light, it can just really bring out the panel lines in different shades and darknesses and shininess, and it's so beautiful how, you know, the natural metal finish really does change in that way. I used duralinium, I also used where's it gone? Duralinium and stainless steel ALC 115. Just underneath you can see just here where we've got the top one is like the stainless steel and the bottom panel is the duralinium. You can just almost see stainless steel sort of gives you a bit of a blue tinge, whereas duralinium's a bit more of a a silver, shall we say. All in all, you know, this is looking nice and neat, nice and natural metal finishy. So I mean, really, that is it for our focus point on this. What we want to do is we want to seal this in with a nice gloss coat, all ready for decaling. Now, what we could have done, right, is I've done in the past, and I've done it on like a lightning, is to actually do some bleaching and post shading, where what I've done is I've come along and I've used, I'll just grab it for you, I have actually used Vallejo's 050 light grey, really thinned it down to very transparency kind of mixture, and done normal post shading and even bleaching to actually give our aircraft a nice bit of a look in wear and tear. Now, I've done that in the past, I thought about doing it on this one, but what I want to do is I want to actually kind of see how this one goes first, see how dirty I can get it with just using maybe oils and different weathering techniques, maybe using some pigments and stuff, and just seeing how that goes first. I can always come back and do that kind of post shading at a later date. So I'm going to now crack on with doing some painting patterns on this and whatnot, which isn't really kind of the focus point because it's just the blue nose here. So I'm just going to crack on with that, and then we'll probably have a look at some decaling. As you can see, all nicely sprayed up, we're all nicely decaled up, sealed in with a gloss coat and everything. The decals, I mean, really, I just did not have to show you anything about the decals. They were all nice and basic, and to my surprise, to be honest with you, they went on better than normal Tamiya decals go on for some reason. Micro Solon set, nicely conformed, the decals really nicely, so you will have no problems with the decaling. However, I've had a little accident with this kit, which is in some ways kind of good because I get to show you guys a bit of repair, right? So what we've got is, plain and simply, I dropped the model, okay? So what we've got here, we've got a little scratch just on the end here, which is where you kind of get any kind of scratches, really, is on the tips of the wings and tails and all that kind of stuff. So how do we get this nicely back to being some nice natural metal finish? Well, first off, a very light sanding stick. We've got one of these nice polishing sponges, and what this is from Model Design Construction, and what it is, we've got this kind of it's almost like a buff surface. It's almost like a very fine buffing sanding stick, and then you've got this finishing off polishing side, the white side. So what we want to do is we want to just very lightly sand at our little scratch here, just to take out those steps that you get when you get a scratch. Alright, just like so. Those steps now have been taken care of, hopefully, as you can see, and then we can just quickly come back in with the white side and just polish it up so it's all nice, good surface to basically respray. Now, we do have a bit of our different panels here that we've sprayed, and I think that was the Duralinium, so we want to try and avoid kind of getting any overspray on that. So what we're going to do, in my colour cup, we've got the good old what was it again, ALC's 105 polished aluminium, so it's our original colour, and we're just going to very lightly, at around about 15 psi, just start to spray back in our aluminium colour, nice and lightly. Take your time, nice light passes, just get that mistake nicely sprayed back in. Right, now hopefully, as you can see from that, our little scratch there has nicely been taken care of. Now over this side, I managed to get another scratch done. So let's just show you that again. Let's just nicely, lightly start to spray that back in. Right, we want to be careful of overspray. We don't want to be spraying on decals or panels that were sprayed duralinium. We're just nice and lightly getting that biting point, just getting the paint just to come out to spray our scratched areas, like so. So hopefully, as you can see, what was a scratch is now all been nicely natural metal finished up again. Same with this side. Now you're probably thinking, hold on, that's looking a little bit dark, which you're right, it's looking a little bit kind of more aluminium-y than the rest of the model. What this is, it's the gloss coat. Sadly, with Alclad's 2 paints, they look really kind of amazing when we first put them down, but we need to put on gloss coats. We need to put these gloss coats on so we can protect the paintwork from scratches, protect it from putting the decals down with the decaling solutions, and you know, we need to then put more gloss coats down to protect that from the weathering stage. And what happens is when you put a gloss coat down, it will kind of dull down that natural metal finish a little bit, and this just shows you how much it does actually dull down the natural metal finish a bit, as you can hopefully see. So when I come along and put a gloss coat on top of this, it will dull down that bit of a nice and natural metal finish where we've done that bit of a patch up job, and it should blend it back in with the rest of the model. So that was a nice bit of patch up work for you, which is probably a good thing to actually show you, because let's face it, these Alclad's 2 paints and any natural metal finish paint really is a bit more delicate than your average acrylics or enamel paints.